For over 10 years, I've been preaching, teaching, mentoring, and I've been doing public speaking. I've done it in front of various group sizes and various locations. And over the years, I've gotten a number of questions. So what I've begun to do is I've compiled those questions together, and I will answer them in a series I call 10 Frequently Asked Questions. This is TQP Ministry Podcast Season 2, episode number 6. I'm so glad you're here today. Hit the jingle, please.
Mighty King, give him all the glory. Mighty King, yes he is. Oh.
So one of the questions that I've gotten is, Miguel, how do you come up with a title? Let me just kind of make this a two-part question also, because I've also heard people ask, well, do you have to have a title? Well, here's the thing. If I invite you to go watch a movie with me and you ask me, hey, Miguel, what kind of movie is it? Who's in the movie? And I began to describe to you the movie, the characters, the plot, the situation happening, or even where was it filmed. That may give you a little enthusiasm to go out with me and watch this movie. But at the end, you're going to ask,
hey, what's the title of this movie?
It actually has no title.
What, it has no what?
It has no title.
What do you mean it has no title? What do you mean? A movie has a title. A book has a title. Music, albums, tracks, all of this has a title. This podcast has a title. The jingle that UDP Ministry made for this podcast has a title. What do you mean? No title?
So the question of do you have to have a title? Yes, you have to have a title. And if you go to tqpministries.jimdo.com, in our blog post, you will find that I wrote a blog titled Cockpit Checklist. There, you'll see that I say you should strive for 5. What does that mean, strive for 5? Well, strive for 5 means that your title should not go over 5. Should not go over 5 words. Should not. It should not. If your title is a question, that's really good, because the fact is that people remember these questions. They may jot it down on a notepad. They may jot it down on a piece of paper. They'll put it somewhere. And then when they're reminded of this question, it'll still keep ministering and it'll keep working in their life. So a question theme is always good. Like, who are you? That's not more than 5. You see, that's what I'm saying. You want these questions to be centered. Also, you don't want the theme to give everything away. You don't want that. So the question of how do you come up with a title? Well, I think about who am I talking to and what am I talking about? If I'm going to talk about love, and let's say I'm going to use John 3:16, as God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son so that everyone who believes in him may not perish, but have everlasting life. If I'm going to use that verse to talk about love, then I have to have a theme that doesn't give away everything about this. Let me come up with a theme right here, right now. Now, this is improv. I want you to know I got no notes, no nothing in regards to this. I just want you to see, or hear rather, how you can come up with a title. I'm using the verse John 3:16. The message is going to be about love. My focus of this message is that even while you were a sinner, God still loved you. Even while I was bathing in sin, God still loved me. I was living in a sinful world, driving my sinful car, straight sinful, right? You get the picture. Here I was lost, and Christ dies for me. And he loves me so much that he would sacrifice everything for me. And if that right there is the focus of my message, and I've already got my verse, which is John 3:16, then I would then talk upon the theme, the ultimate sacrifice. Again, strive for 5, the ultimate sacrifice. I'm not leaving that 5 zone. If we're talking about the ultimate sacrifice, that's our theme. Again, strive for 5, not going over 5, but rather under it. That's our theme. I'm going with John 3:16, and I'm talking about the ultimate love that Christ has for us, that he would give his life. But then I could take it even further, that God loves us so much that he would send his only begotten son. But I would take it even a little further than that. How much do you love God? Are you willing to do the ultimate sacrifice and put your life on the line? See, now we've got a message. Now we're working with something because you're reaching the conscience of the individual. So the question of how do you come up with a theme, I really think about and develop a focus. Again, go back to tqpministries.jimdo.com because there you will find in our blog post, I come up with this cockpit checklist, these things you really have to think about before going airborne, before bringing a sermon. And I talk about coming up with a theme. I also talk about having a focus. Your focus can't be too broad. It needs to come narrow. Who are you talking to? What are you talking about? Having those questions answered will help you develop a solid theme. An example of this would be Titanic. That's one word. That's one word. They didn't call it the Jack and Rose story, although that would have been under 5, but they didn't do that. They called it Titanic. And now in your mind, you're asking yourself, what is Titanic? You may do a little research. You say, oh, Titanic is this ship. They thought it was unbreakable, but it sunk. But when you watch the movie, you realize that there's more to it. You have these two people who are literally polar opposites in regards of the economic ladder. You have one that's more wealthy than the other. They shouldn't like each other, but they do. They fall in love in this place and that will ultimately go down. And one of them are going to survive and the other one is not, right? The title Titanic makes you think about the ship, but now they have developed this whole story. It's like, hey, you think you know, but you have no idea. Now you're engaged. Now you want to watch. Some of you are out there saying, I haven't seen the movie in a while. I might watch it again. You should, right? It's a good movie. It's a long one. It's a good one, though. When we talk about themes, titles, it really matters. Like when my friend Mandy, she wrote a book and it's called The Elect. You're asking yourself, who's the elect? And you begin to read this book. And let me tell you, there's some turns in there. I don't want to give it away, but I want to encourage you to check out her book because again, the title pulls you in. Ask yourself the question of who am I talking to? Who's going to listen to this? What do I want to say? What is it that God wants to speak to these people? Because at the end of the day, this is his people. He's going to give me what to speak, but how do I come up with a theme when I think about what am I going to talk about? And from there, I begin to develop. And it may be a theme that is in the form of a question. Like I said, it can be a theme where you're talking about a particular character, or even if you're not talking about the character, but you're talking about his trait, like boldness or courage. How do you come up with a theme for that? You have to think about who am I talking to and how can I draw them in to this particular word that I will be speaking. Even when I present a blog post, I try to think about how can I write something that the title will be engaging, like Passing the Plateau. I wrote that blog in the beginning of the year, but really was already thinking about this idea. How many times have you hit a plateau in your life, a level, and you're thinking, man, I want to reach new heights, new heights, new heights. And all of a sudden you've reached a plateau and you don't know how to pass it. And in our blog post, I talk about that. But when I was coming up with this theme, that was the idea of reaching new heights. Well, in order for you to reach new heights, there's plateaus that you sometimes face where you are kind of just stuck here, kind of like a gerbil in a wheel, right? You're just going around in circles and you've reached a plateau. I'm helping you today to come up with a theme on your message. The first question that you should ask yourself is, who am I talking to? Because that's going to help me to focus on what do I want to talk about? And then I can come up with the title of this sermon, of this message, of this teaching. It's going to be phenomenal. I think you're going to do fantastic. So the question today is, how do you come up with a title? Well, the answer is, I think about what I'm talking about and who I'm talking to. And how could I engage? How could I bring them in just a little bit closer, just a little bit more? Because the title is just to make them lean over on their chair. And once they lend you the ear, that introduction is going to come out and it's going to be banging. It's going to be beautiful. I believe you're going to go ahead and you're going to do phenomenal. Remember, the greatest profit you could ever make is the impact you have. And that's the desire here. That's the goal here, that you may have a greater impact when you give your public speaking, your preaching, when you go out there and speak to the people. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've still got a long season ahead of us, but I'm getting ready for season 3, even though we're still in season 2. Having said that, I'm also getting ready for the moment that season 2 ends. Don't worry. There's still some time for that. I'll give you more information as the season progresses about season 3 and about when our season finale episode will be. However, in lieu of all of that, in preparation of all of that, I've developed a group on Facebook. It's called Preacher's Paradise. Here's what I want you to do. If you're there on tqpministries.jimdo.com, you'll notice that there is a palm tree. That palm tree is what you need to click on so that you can go ahead and join us in our group, Preacher's Paradise. Listen to me, my friend, you that are listening, you that want to be a better preacher, this group will close and I will maintain it closed for a while. The objective is that you can get surrounded with individuals that are going to one place, and that's Preacher's Paradise. What is Preacher's Paradise? Well, Preacher's Paradise is that moment when you've prepared yourself and you know that you've got something beautiful to give to the people, and the moment comes and you're before the public, and the public are so ready, and you can see them wide-eyed, and you can see that they're leaning over their chair, waiting for you to present this word. And not only do you present it, the word has an impact. They accept it, receive it in their hearts, and you see them apply it, and you see the change this has in their life. That is Preacher's Paradise. I think I speak for everyone who preaches when I say that's what we're aiming for. That the audience would be ready to receive it, that they would receive it, and that we would be ready to deliver that word to the way that the Lord has put it in our hearts. So what I've created is Preacher's Paradise. It's a group on Facebook that you can join, and there I'll be providing content that you won't hear on our podcast and you won't see anywhere else. It'll be specifically for the group that is part of Preacher's Paradise. So when the season is over, I'll still be providing content to you and value to you and service to you. Oh, don't worry, you can still get a hold of me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and we'll come back for the next season. But while we are on hiatus, you can receive information there. And even while the podcast is happening, by being part of Preacher's Paradise, you can easily receive this episode earlier than anyone else. I want to encourage you to join Preacher's Paradise, a Facebook group that I've created to furthermore service you in having an impact. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. We're not through yet with the 10 most frequently asked questions that I've gotten in the past few years. But if you have a question while you're listening to this and you're listening on Facebook or YouTube, leave a comment in the comment section. If you're listening from our website at tqpministries.jimdo.com, then I encourage you to there leave a comment. How it's very simple this time around. It's very simple because actually what I've done is that from our website, you can send me, that's right, directly to me, a Facebook message. So if you're on Facebook Messenger, you simply click on the link there on our website. You'll see the pop-up, you'll know the logo, and you can go ahead and message me your question, and I will do my best to answer it to you. And who knows, it may even appear on a future episode. My job, my desire is to service you. You want to become a better preacher? I want to help you have an impact. Our desire at TQP Ministry is to help you that you may be both equipped and encouraged to go out there and conquer.